Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to Jim Roberts for inviting me. My name is Toby Walter. I am very excited to be on today's episode of Three Sips of Advice. So I would say without further ado, let's jump in and get to our first sip and our first piece of advice. Cheers. Question number one. As a recovering entrepreneur who has become a venture capitalist, what do you now see from a different angle that would have helped you as an entrepreneur? What approach would you take differently as an entrepreneur looking for capital? That's a really great question, I think. When I thought about it, my biggest surprise in these first 7-8 months working with Co-Founders Capital, I think would be how many deals investors truly see on a daily basis, and thus how quickly they have to decide whether to engage further and dive deeper onto a specific startup or venture concept or entrepreneurial team, or when to move on. For us, I would say it's 3 to 5 deals a day on average that we see. So 20 plus a week. And we get to pick at best probably one out of those 20 that we engage deeper with. There is a laundry list of reasons of what all you try to go through and figure out in these first, typically very quick conversations to see if this is that one out of the 20. And what I think is important about this for entrepreneurs is 2 or 3 different things. One is, if you are a founder that comes with a sales background, you might already be doing this naturally, or you might have been trained to do this for the last years or even decades, which is go to a large number of leads, try to identify quickly where the right parameters are and where a high probability of a deal is, and move on further to all the other leads if you can't detect that early on. When I see first-time entrepreneurs that are going through fundraising for the first time and might come out of a product engineering, marketing, finance background, I see it more often that people think, well, if I talk to 2, 3, 4 investors, surely I've got to be able to convince one of them to invest in my company. Because why wouldn't you? You have taken the plunge. You have a great product, you're working in a great market, you surrounded yourself with a great team, so why would somebody else not see that? And I think the point is, it's not necessarily about not seeing it, but it's about does it fit on a lot of different levels. I mentioned before, there is a laundry list of reasons that even though you might be doing a great job, you might be a great entrepreneur with a great business, how an investor still puts you to one of the 19 companies and moves on and simply doesn't engage further. That could be simple things like an investor might have been burned by a similar product or in a similar market before. And so they simply shy away from doing that again, which has nothing to do with you or your business. Or the investor might think that they can't be that helpful to you with your product or your market because they might not be able to think of sales leads they can give you, or how they would hire for your company, or how they could help and consult you in your go-to-market strategy. So again, there is a laundry list of reasons that investors would have to just do this initial pick of, okay, do I go further, or do I, in 95% of the cases, just not move further with a specific company? My 2 pieces of advice that stem from this would be, number 1, go to a large number of investors when you're raising capital. 10 or less is definitely too little. 20 or 30 might be right. Maybe it's even more. My personal story, I was co-founder at Shoeboxed, and when we raised venture capital in 2011, I pitched 95 VCs and angel groups to find one VC to invest in us. Now, the second piece of advice is, when you talk to a large number of people, do all put them into an investor update email that comes out in a regular cadence. If you want to, go to cofounderscapital.com. We have a little resource section for entrepreneurs. And one of the things that's in there is a template for these investor updates. We say very clearly, do send that out in a specific cadence, for example, every 3 months, and stick to those dates. It's very easy to start shifting this off because you might not have good news, or this customer is about to sign, so I might wait a couple of weeks, which then turn into a month and turn into 2 months until that customer signs. So do send an email every 3 months to the investors you have pitched, later on any partners you're collecting along the ways, any potential acquirers, and send an email every 3 months about here's what happened in the company, here are things that went well, here are things that didn't go well, and here's what I plan on doing in the next 3 months. And by the way, here's something I could use help with in case any of you have, that connection, that background, that experience, and could help me. What that does, and again, I'm seeing this on the first lines right now, I'm actually re-engaging right now with founders that I might have met in January for the first time, and it was just not a clear fit. And now I've seen a couple of emails, and I've gotten really impressed with what they have done in this short time, how they're steering their company. So now I am reaching back out and saying, hey, actually, can we have a follow-up conversation? Let's talk about this a bit more. And I now realized, a piece of your business that I didn't maybe understand in the first pitch in January, that I do actually think we could be very helpful in. So, right, let's pick that conversation back up. Those would be two pieces of advice that I think would be great and could hopefully help you in your early fundraising. Going to question number 2. Cheers. Now that you're an investor with co-founders, how have you worked with Wilmington entrepreneur Charles Davis in the growth of EasyVote Solutions? What is the potential of the company on a national scale? They are one of the few startups in Wilmington to sell outside of the state of North Carolina. First of all, especially after the nCino acquisition, I'm not sure I can truly believe that, expecting that they must be paving your streets in gold right now in Wilmington. But no, seriously, Wilmington is a great market. We've seen tremendous entrepreneurs come from it. I was just going to say, we're trying to spend a lot more time in Wilmington, but in Wilmington during Corona times might mean virtually and speaking with entrepreneurs from the Wilmington area. We believe truly a great area. But to come back to how I've worked with Charles Davis and with EasyVote. EasyVote is a SaaS application for election management. So they sell to cities, counties, states SaaS software, not the actual software that is on the voting booth that counts votes, but all the modules around it. For example, modules for campaign finance or modules for inventory and how to track these voting machines, how to track your staff, etc. The way I've worked with Charles Davis a lot is he's one of the few entrepreneurs in our portfolio that was a banker before. So in March and April, I had the distinct pleasure to try and figure out what this Corona Cares Act is and which parts of the government stimulus packages could apply to companies, which ones don't, how they, etc. And so Charles was one of the great resources that I could sit together with, and we would both go over passages of 800-page bills to try and understand what is this PPP and what is this EIDL and how does all of that work together, and can you really take that tax credits if you took that, or what is the math if this and that. So I've spent a lot of time with Charles on those sort of solutions, and would have not expected at the beginning of the year that I would become an expert in some of these government stimulus packages. But if anyone is seeing this and still has questions about what is this all about, does this apply to me, if, when, and how, I'm sure that Jim will manage to blend my email address in here. You can go to our website on cofounderscapital.com, and feel free to reach out to me if I can help with anybody else from that acquired knowledge. EasyVote Solutions, on the other hand, is one of the true winners in our fund too. They're one of the great performing companies, as Jim worded in his question, that sell nationwide, that have really good traction in cities and counties, and are landing their first state deals now. So really interesting and exciting company on EasyVote. But with the last 2 minutes remaining, let's get quickly to our sip number 3 and the last piece of advice. Cheers. Co-Founders was just named the most active investor in North Carolina again. Why is the fund more aggressive than others in North Carolina and the South? What would you like to see in North Carolina? More funds or more active, aggressive funds, and why? So I'll try to make this quick. I would love to see more funds. David, Tim, and I, we're the 3 partners at Co-Founders Capital, and we are all former entrepreneurs. So a lot of what we do here stems from what we saw in our entrepreneurial days. When I joined Taylor Mingus to co-found Shoeboxed here in Durham in 2007, it was extremely hard to get the company funded over the 10 years until we were acquired. It started with having a hard time finding angel investors out here. We raised our first angel round with German and Middle Eastern investors. Then it was tough to find the first VC rounds because Silicon Valley and Boston, New York investor told you needed to move up to their areas. They couldn't fund companies down here. At the same time, there weren't a lot of seed investors around here. So overall, I would love to see more funds around here and more capital being deployed. I think and this is a big part of our thesis at Co-Founders Capital, is we believe that this is a truly deal-rich and cash-poor area, and that there is a lot of really great companies that might never make it to a nationwide radar because they don't get that funded early on. So we dedicated ourselves to deploying most of our capital in the state of North Carolina. And also not just in Raleigh or Durham, also in all other areas of the country. We talked about Wilmington. We have a couple of companies in Asheville, and then even more in the rural areas where we truly want to meet these entrepreneurs, and we are seeing really interesting concepts coming out of these areas. We believe we have a state here that has a tremendous amount of talent, a tremendous amount of advisors, clients, and all of the above that can really make this a truly great startup hub. But we still believe that there is too little capital out here and too few deals being funded. So we try to fund a lot of companies. As I mentioned before, unfortunately, that is still just a small percentage of what we're seeing. We're doing 6 to 8 deals, I would say, on average a year. And that's a lot to do with 3 full-time partners in the company. We would love to do even more, but even more so, to your question, I would love to see another 10, 20 VC funds that do exactly this and just bring more great entrepreneurs and businesses into the radar and out here in North Carolina. So with that, and a couple minutes over time, thank you so much for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope you got a little bit of advice out of it too. Cheers.